Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1. Can you hear me, chat? Do I sound okay? Volume's okay? Thank you. So actually, unfortunately, I believe we'll be doing shaders on Monday. And we'll discuss why that is in a sec. This is going to be more of a bonus lecture day due to the awkward timing. Interesting. Interesting, Max. Did you, I feel like you might have been pushing your luck a little bit, though. Not every team is so lucky with Canvas upload speeds. Excellent. Alberiona, I expect infinitely more quality as a result. Got you, okay. That's a good idea, right? Make an early submission and then use the time remaining to get in some final touches. That's very, very exciting, Ish. Like, first you make a computer, and now you're making quesadillas. That is you're on a roll. So well done, well done. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's get rocking. First of all, does anyone know what those last few songs were from? Any idea? They had kind of more of a rock / high energy, techno vibe to them than usual. Maybe a song that helped wake you up a little bit this morning. Do any of those songs sound familiar to any of you? So we'll get moving. We don't have a ton of material today because of kind of how awkward the timing is with this particular lecture, but we'll get moving. So those songs were from a game called Beautiful Joe 2, which is essentially, if you've ever heard of Platinum Games, it is one of their earliest titles. It was made when they were still under Capcom's umbrella as Clover Studios. And it is a game in which you become beautiful, as in you become a film hero. And you must use the powers of film characters, right? The rewind power, the zoom power, slow-mo, fast motion, or fast forward, to save the day. Kind of an exciting beat-em-up. So very, very cool game. Check it out if you are ever in the video game archive again. All right? Hopefully that does eventually come back. All right? We get back to campus. Okay. It looks like Ishwar just posted his quesadilla pic, so make sure you take a photo there. That looks like a fine creation for sure. Well done. All right. So let's go ahead and get to it. So congratulations, right? You all just turned in your P2 gold. You're done with your first 2 projects, right? That's got to be about 2/3 of the way through the course now, right? In reality, we're more like 1/2 of the way through the course as we begin Project 3. But that's still a very, very big milestone. I hope you enjoyed Project 2. I hope you enjoyed the creative freedom that it afforded you, the ability to hopefully try something a little bit weird, maybe something that didn't turn out to be entirely fun, but you explored your idea thoroughly, and hopefully you had some satisfaction from that, right? Discovering whether a set of mechanics would work or not. That is a big part of game development process. I want to get your thoughts really quickly on Project 2. You will be writing a P2 postmortem over the next 5 days, so you'll have time. It's going to be fairly short. I think only about 2 pages. Maybe 2 or 3 pages, double-spaced. But I want to get your thoughts now, right, so that we can iterate the assignment and hopefully take off some of the rough edges, make it more satisfying and more impactful and useful for you. I had so much fun right? Thank you. But never just say something is good. Try and articulate why. If you enjoyed something, had fun, or didn't enjoy something, the overall result is much less important than the individual pieces that made that result. So, why was it fun for you? The P2 Gold Spike planning was torturous because novel is a very broad term. You're right, and it's very hard to pin down too, particularly if you don't play a lot of games. No one can know exactly what mechanics have been done and how, to what extent, right? Because there are so many games. Every single day on Steam, I read something like 20 to 25 new games release, and that Steam has a pretty high barrier to entry. You have to pay $100 to get your game on there. You have to go through an approval process. Itch.io, even more games are released on itch.io every day, and even more on Flash websites like Congregate.com, Newgrounds. So no one can know what is a perfectly novel mechanic, and that's a difficulty with pinning down what you want to try and do. But P2 being so open is what's fun about it. I spent 4 days trying to figure out what to do. Well, yeah, that's pretty common. I like the research aspect to actually make us play some games to get ideas and make comparisons, so that was nice. Yeah, it is something. The research and postmortem assignments are assignments that my impression is that people don't like the idea of doing them, but students actually kind of enjoy doing these assignments, right? Because they're not really graded as essays. It's more just, hey, let's just spend some time thinking about what happened in this project, looking back, what were the big issues we ran into, how can we try and get past those? It's kind of satisfying to do. And researching games, right? Really looking at other games and trying to figure out, what are the differences between these two games, how do those manifest, how do different game design choices result in a different end experience. It's very satisfying when you get into it, even though it can be annoying to just the thought of working on an essay in an engineering course. I'd like it if we could somehow nail down what novel is while leaving the options of what the game should look like kind of open. Yeah, I'm not really sure how we can go about doing that. But if you have any ideas, please let us know. I ran out of time after trying to catch up on sleep for midterms and still need to tidy it up for late credit. I'm sorry. Well, so this is actually a unique note on strategy and tactics. There's no difference between being 1 second late, or actually being on time is technically late for this course. There's no difference between being 0 seconds late and being 23 hours and 55 seconds late, right? So you now have 24 extra hours to polish things up, remove any bugs you can find, and potentially add some more content to get some of those points back. You're going to lose some points, but with the extra time, you can work your way back a little bit. I read several research papers in order to implement the mechanism, okay? I think the most difficult thing for me was scope creep and getting carried away with multiple mechanics aside from my gold spike. The gold spike is one of the reasons it's there is that you get your main mechanic in quickly, and then in the second week you polish it up, you decorate it with maybe some small side mechanics and some stages to explore, right? The time limits on this project really fight against scope creep in a way because the deadlines are so real and they're coming so quickly. When you are given a lot of time and a lot of freedom, you often end in situations where, wow, we've explored too many different areas and we've bitten off way more than we can chew, and we have so many different things, but none of them were the focus, so none of them work all that well. This is something that AAA studios get into a lot, unfortunately. Duke Nukem Forever is a famous example. It was actually worked on by several Wolverine Soft alumni, a game that I think took 11 years to come out, which sets expectations very high, right? But in reality, it only really had an effective development period of probably about a year, right? Where, the deadlines were real, the mechanics were set in stone, and the production was focused. And as a result, it feels very rushed and unpolished. Another example of that is the recent Anthem game that was released by BioWare and Electronic Arts. BioWare, I believe their team had something like 5 or 6 years to make that game. And in reality, like the first 4 of it were just exploration of various prototypes, never really settling on anything. And then a quick rush to make a Destiny-style looter shooter in the last like year, or maybe not much more than that. And the result kind of speaks for itself, I guess. What does 0 seconds late mean? Okay, so if you look at the syllabus, and if you go back to our first lecture, and if you look at the actual logic that is used to determine whether you're late, what your late score is, what your late penalty is, on Canvas, if you submit something at the very moment of the deadline, is considered late. Canvas is the final arbiter of whether or not something is late or not. So in reality, if something is marked as due at 11:30 a.m. on this date, if your timestamp says literally 11:30 a.m., Canvas will say it's late, and we will agree. Okay, so please make sure you get it in before that kind of dead date that we provide. So that is what we mean. It's a semantics of about 1 second or so. Okay. Much sleep. It's like I skipped some work in other classes. Hope it won't cause me to fail. Yeah, that's unfortunate, right? It's very, very unique from the perspective of a staff, because we read your postmortems, and we see that there's quite a few teams that, and this might be hard to believe, don't really have a problem with time. So they get things in and they put their hours in, and they submit a day early, and that's basically enough, and they're good to go. They don't really have to skip a whole lot of sleep or a lot of work in other classes. And there are a lot of teams who struggle with this, right? They submit late. They have to spend a lot of time, much more than anyone would expect, putting into the course to get things done. They have to sacrifice sleep and time for other courses. And so the question for us as a staff is, how can we kind of schedule our lectures? How can we fill our lectures with content that helps people be more efficient, right? And a lot of that has resulted in, hey, we need to start discussing design patterns sooner. We need to start pushing those and reminding people of those and showing examples of how those can be used to speed up and make certain projects more scalable, so that there are fewer bugs, so that it's easier to expand content. Right after the first enemy, it's much easier to make the rest. And so we're always trying to find ways to make the course more efficient of the student's time, right? We want to have the same impactful result of you learning a lot and having great portfolio pieces, but we want that to eat up less and less of your time, so that the course is more accessible, more people can afford to take it, and so that the people who take it have a nicer experience, right? So anyway, if you have any suggestions on how we can change and alter the course, its assignments, its lectures, to help make this possible, then let us know, okay? We need more ideas so we can keep experimenting. For whatever reason, the Chrome web captioner Windows is failing us a little bit here. So hopefully that is not the case anymore. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into the content. This is an awkward timing because you now have a 5-day break, and that's fantastic. You deserve it. Please catch up on some sleep. Please think about how this all went, how you can be a little bit more efficient, time efficient. Write fewer bugs on your P3. And for this lecture, though, it's a little bit awkward because, I'm sorry, I said we wanted to do shaders soon, and we do. However, I want to cover shaders and efficient teamwork when you are guaranteed to have your team, right? And I can see we only have 39 people watching right now. That's about 50% of the course. And that's probably because everyone's sleeping right now, right? Recovering after the submission. On Monday, you're going to have your teams, and you're going to have your sleep. Hopefully, you'll be caught up a little bit. And so I want to cover those more important topics then. So today what I want to do is I want to go over some basic Project 3 introduction, and I want to go over some example games, and I want to play through those, potentially with you. And then I want to go over some mini lecture stuff. We're going to finish off then with a bonus lecture on the topic of how cheat codes work and how modifications work, right? So the idea that a player or a community of players takes a game and mods it, right, goes in, adds new features, adds new content. How do those tend to work? Well, you'll know at the end of this lecture, okay? So a few announcements. There's a new extra credit coming up, the Wolverine Soft Game Jam #1, okay? And I think this is probably going to be the only game jam that allows extra credit this semester. 15 points, and it starts this weekend. So if you do have time this weekend to participate in a game jam, spend a little bit of time working with the team on a random game of your choosing, then you'll get 15 extra credit points for that guaranteed. If you submit at the end and have a substantial game comparatively that is being judged and available to the public to play. Okay, you do that, and you will get the extra credit points. You can learn more about this in the Wolverine Soft Discord. You go to wolverinesoft.org, and you can join the Discord server and get those announcements. Okay. So it takes place this weekend on the Discord server. Yep. Assignments due today: your Project 2 Gold and your Project 2 Management. Okay, and we'll be checking those out. Hopefully, get those grades to you within a few weeks, probably, okay? You might be wondering, hey, where are my P1 Gold grades? We just finished P2, right? So these absolutely take forever, and partially because many of these levels are very hard and we must experience every bit of content you've created to grade it. And so these are taking a while. We have them scheduled for release next Thursday, so not too far away. What is that, 8 days from now? So please look forward to those grades. From the ones I've seen on the Discord server, you're going to be getting some very nice feedback or positive feedback. There's a lot of very impressive work that went in, and some very impressive design too. Okay, so look forward to those, getting that feedback back. Okay, so your assignments have released. You have the P3 Studio registration. This is a very simple form. You fill it out with the names of your unique name, unique names of your teammates. You provide your project code name, and your studio name, right? So come up with the studio name with your team, and come up with a project code name, right? This could be literally anything. We don't really care. And then you're going to want to talk with your team. Okay, what do we think our game genre and basic premise might be? Okay, meet with your team and talk over. Okay, I want to make. Let's do a survival puzzle game. Okay, with lots of resource management. Okay, and it's going to be themed around surviving a circus because you are lost in a circus as a little kid. And you have to survive until your parents arrive. Right, with evil clowns everywhere. Okay, great. You provide the pitch, and then you can change this later. You can change it all. You don't need to stick to this. We just want you as a team to start thinking now about what you want to create. Okay, you'll insert your team members, and then if we let you, you'll provide your unique name number 5. Okay, but we're not going to allow that unless there's an odd number of people in the course. Okay, you got your P2 postmortem assignment. This is very similar to your P1 postmortem, except you don't have a partner. So there's a little bit less. There's a little bit less length that is required. I think it's only 2 pages, double spaced, so that's really nice. You've got another template to fill out, and so please enjoy this assignment. It is very cathartic for a number of students, okay, to go over what happened exactly and how can we make the Project 3 a better result. Okay, so let's talk about Project 3, actually. Okay. So Project 3, right, your big showcase project, and I'll go ahead and minimize myself here. Project 3 is the big, it's the big kahuna. I'm not actually really sure what that word means, but it's the big enchilada, the big thing, right? The big project. Typically, students really, really enjoy working on this one, mainly because this is the game that gets the most visibility for them, where they can see that, wow, my project, right, my investment of time and energy really did make a difference for someone else, right, for quite a few other people, right, brightened their day, showed them something that they haven't really seen before, gave them situations they haven't stepped into before, right, gave them a slightly different perspective, okay? And usually it looks kind of like this. We have a ton of people coming through, usually several hundred, that come often through the snow, through the darkness, to play your games. It's set up in an expo-style booth, and it's just a ton of fun, right? This is not unlike the experience that you would have if you took a new product that your little startup team made to an exhibition, right? To a convention, to a product show where people are walking through CES, Comic-Con, stuff like that, right? And so it's a really visceral experience. There are lots of variety there, lots of people. People often dress up. People bring monitors, big games, big posters, all of this. People bring, is it here? Oh, darn it. People bring giveaways. I don't think you can see any of the stickers or anything that people provide. But anyway, it's just a lot of fun, right? People bringing costumes, people really celebrating the work that they've done as a team. And the audience celebrating as a result. This was a team that made a really innovative canoe game where you actually used the joysticks on the controller to paddle, right? So, right? Very kind of difficult to control, but very, very novel, which a lot of people loved. I have no idea what game this was for. Anyway, there is voting at the convention, and in the real-life version, we would get these little bags. Every team would get a bag, and every person who attends would get a bunch of little gems. And they place the little gems into your bag, and then we weigh them all at the end to determine who wins, right? We also, before the event, we show off all of your game trailers. And so everyone gets to see your fun and playful trailers that show them, what's the hook of your game, right? What is your game's content, and then why should they care, right? What's special about it? So what I want to do, though, is that none of this is related to the showcase for this semester. If you want to experience how the showcase is going to go for you, we can't all get together, sadly. However, what we discovered is that we have a pretty impactful and successful new kind of online version of the showcase. Okay, and it looks like this. This is going to crash my computer if you pause it. Okay, so what happens is you will go to 494showcase.com. And in fact, everyone who's attending the showcase will go here. Now, when the showcase is running, you will have all of your games displayed on this big tile board with game descriptions. If you click on one, you'll get a link to the game's itch.io page, and you'll also get a link to the trailer on YouTube as well. Okay? And all of the games can be played here very, very easily. Now, I'm going to move my screen here because the things you would expect from an in-person showcase is here as well. So everyone can vote using a Google form. If you think, well, geez, a showcase is usually, very interactive, right? It feels like it's real time and there's all sorts of energy. Well, we actually fix that. We provide that by having a Discord stream that's being played during the showcase. And so people can see your games being played, usually by myself and Corbin Reeves, my colleague at EMU, during the showcase. If anyone has any feedback to give, then they can actually go into a dedicated showcase Discord server where you'll have one channel for each game. And what happens is that the people who are playing your game will often post screenshots when they win, let's say first, and they will give feedback. If they run into any bugs or issues playing the game, they will also post those bugs there as well. And so you get a lot of interactivity. One of the best things about the showcase is people walking up and telling you, hey, this game was awesome. How did you make this game? What techniques did you use? Why did you make these decisions that you made in the game? And its design. And you can make that back and forth happen in this Discord server too. Okay, so it's a really cool night. And you know what's even cooler? While it's only possible to get 200 to 300 people at the in-person showcase, this showcase last semester had 1.2 thousand people attend. Okay, and part of that is because it's just so much more accessible, right? You don't need to be in Ann Arbor. You don't need to travel here to do the showcase, to participate. Your recruiters can come, right? Your friends can come, your family can come and attend. Former 494 students can attend, right? Even though they're working on at studios in Seattle or Los Angeles or San Francisco or the East Coast, right? Everyone can attend. And so while we lose a bit of energy, we gain a really cool bit of accessibility and history too, because this website is basically around forever, all right? Showcasing your games and getting people to play them. So it's a really, really fun time. I think you'll enjoy it even though it's not in person, okay? So I want to go over a few more examples of what a showcase game looks like. You'll have to help me though, because you saw this. You saw Gust, right? And you saw Spooky Night In, I think, on the first day. You saw EECS Infiltration. Did you see Danger Docs? Chat, help me out. Did you see Danger Docs? We'll watch this if you haven't. No, all right, let's give it a watch. This is Danger Docs, a 4-player cooperative game where you are a bunch of doctors outside and you are trying to operate on a patient in the woods, okay?
Danger Docs is a wacky 4-player surgery in which players are tasked with rescuing patients in all sorts of unfortunate predicaments. Perform surgical tasks in the wilderness. Watch out for thieving raccoons and hungry bears. Extinguish fires and fend off carnivores in this jam-packed party game that's sure to get your blood flowing.
Right. So it's a really, really fun game, and it's a great trailer, too. It's brief, it shows you the gameplay, and then it gives you the basic pitch, right? With a little bit of pizzazz in there, too, right? Sure to get your blood flowing. Ha, 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 right? That's a quality pun. Let's keep going. Super Grocery Fight Night 2, Robo Friends. Did anyone see Robo Friends? Did we see Robo Friends? No? Okay, so let's take a look at Robo Friends. That last game, Danger Docs, was a multiplayer game, okay? And I would like to recommend that you start thinking about, okay, how can we create a really engaging single-player game? Because while it is possible to do multiplayer, whether implementing your own client-server technology or using a local multiplayer faking software like Parsec, typically the games that do best at the showcase and have the most impact are the games that are single player and not so much multiplayer, okay? You can certainly do that if you want to. Here's a really great example of a single player game that had a lot of impact. It has a very, very simple premise, but wow, was it effective. I think you'll see why in just a sec.
In Robo Friends, you're a space traveler that has become trapped in a strange facility full of friendly but broken robots. Armed with your robot connection gun, you connect to and cooperate with these robots to escape danger, solve puzzles, and survive.
Great. So, Robo Friends, right? This is a really good example of a type of game that we'll talk about in just a little bit. This kind of game is super accessible because it has essentially one main mechanic that requires only one button press, right? It is just you click someplace to shoot in that direction. However, it's extremely deep because depending on what you shoot, you'll get different abilities. So if you shoot the flying robot, you will elevate into the air. If you shoot another robot, you'll sink, right? And so what happens is you have a game that's super accessible, so anyone can play it and get into it. That's really, really good for you. It's good for your game sales. It's good for your audience, right? You're going to have a bigger one. But it's super deep, too. So a lot of people will keep playing. The people who do play will be engaged. They'll play for longer. And experts at the game will have something to kind of sink their teeth into, okay? I want to show off probably one more, and then we'll go to the high-level schedule. Did I show you Did I show you Dance of the Damned? We're going to play that one next time. Did I show you... oh gosh, I love both of these. Oh gosh. Okay, did you see the game called Breakdown? Anyone see Breakdown? Did we show off Breakdown? This game is another incredible P3 because it is so simple and easy to play, but it is also extremely deep. I think you'll see why in a sec. Let's take a look.
Avoid falling to a fiery death while trying to send other players to theirs in this action-packed 4-player, 5-round free-for-all fight for survival.
Oh no! Internet, come on. Internet, hello? Hello? Knock knock. Oh, look at...
Encircle other players and watch the platform disintegrate underneath them.
Okay, you know what? We might just have to post the link here to Twitch, so that you can watch it on your own. Oh, what a bummer. Can you hear me, chat? Am I still live? Okay, let me pause the game here. I'm gonna give it a refresh. Maybe we'll go to the actual page itself too. This is fortunately this is a bonus lecture, so if we do have issues, it's not the end of the world. It's not going to impact your projects all that much. Yeah, if anyone's played Fall Guys, this might look kind of familiar, except this came out first.
Beneath them. Try to avoid conflict and play the edge of the map. Collect power-ups to give yourself a tactical advantage. Dodge hazardous obstacles dropped by passing aliens. In a fight to survive, there are no rules. Battle it out and break it down.
Right, so Fall Guys copied this game, and I helped design this game, so I'm just waiting for my check by now. So maybe I can retire. I'll let you know in a few weeks if I retire. You'll know. Okay, so Breakdown is a really simple game. It literally has no buttons. This game has no buttons at all. It only has a stick, a joystick, which means it's just maximum accessibility, right? There are no buttons to confuse any player, and you just use the stick to just choose which direction you want to go. And yet, it is so deep. It is so deep because you are trying to cut off, right, and trap your opponents. You're trying to reserve as much space to survive for as long as possible for yourself, right? And there are some power-ups you can grab that will activate that let you do things like jump over a gap and sink other blocks and stuff, right? So it is just a fantastic example of what you can do, okay? Simplicity and depth. And I want to show you one more. I lied because this is just such a fun trailer. I just love it, okay? A game called It Might Snowball. And we'll watch this on the YouTube site again because I don't know. Maybe my connection's just disappointment right now. Very, very disappointing. Okay. All right, let's this is It Might Snowball.
Have you ever dreamed of fighting a snow battle with a real snowman by your side? In My Snowball is a 2v2 snow fighting game. Features the collaboration between the snowman and the snowboy. You will collect snow, build a snow fort, place a cannon on it to defeat your enemy and secure the victory.
This is a great trailer, right? It starts off with kind of a rhetorical question, like, have you ever dreamed of fighting a snow battle with a real snowman by your side, right? And then it launches into this high energy kind of intro where you got these quick shots and this music comes in. Does the music sound like anything you've heard before? Okay, the music in this trailer is actually a commercial game track from a game called Payday. Okay, has anyone heard of the Payday series? But what's interesting is that, normally the team would be penalized for including such a copyrighted work and they wouldn't be able to release the game. But you know what they did? They loved this song so much, they sent an email to the Payday game development team. And they said, go ahead, use it. And so suddenly they have a license to use the song, throw it in there, and have a fantastic trailer, right? And so I often kind of jokingly say, like, hey, I see this Mario, I see this Futurama character in your game. Like, I'm taking some points away from you, but if you have written permission from Nintendo to use this, let me know and I'll give your points back. In this case, they actually did go out to the development team and get the written permission. So well done to this team. Okay, so let's keep going and finish off our little recap of what this project, our little intro. So anyway, let's talk about the high-level schedule of this project, okay? So here's essentially how it goes. You can think of this project in 3 phases, okay? You've got your prototype phase, okay? And then once you have your prototype, you move on to an expansion phase, okay? You figure out what you want to make, and then you expand and polish up what you want to make, and then finally you polish, okay? And you fix all the bugs, you fix and balance the design issues, and you fix up your content, okay? And you kind of refine it for that showcase experience. The showcase experience, remember, tends to be short, kind of 5 to 10 minute gameplay sessions for players. And they usually play once and then never return. So you need to make your impact that first time, okay? Now, the prototype phase, which is about 2 weeks long, okay? The next 2 weeks, starting on Monday, is very similar to Project 2. You're going to have a gold spike deliverable. You're going to be making experiments. You're going to be focusing on trying to find a really great main camp mechanic that is both simple and accessible, but also deep, okay? And so you'll be experimenting with different mechanics. You'll be trying some risky things, and your goal will be to find the fun, okay? Find the core nugget of fun that you will then cultivate, right? The core seed of fun that you'll cultivate in the following 4 weeks of the project, okay? After 2 weeks of prototyping and experimenting, you'll move on to an expansion phase where you'll have 2 weeks, essentially 2 deliverables, to explore your mechanic, okay? You'll be adding levels, you'll be adding areas, you'll be adding content, challenges, and all that stuff, okay? You'll be play testing your game a lot. In fact, every single week, everyone will be play testing each other's games. And every single week, you'll be getting feedback from the instructors in the form of your P2 kind of gold spike videos. So you'll see all of us playing your game together at the same time, and we'll all be giving our feedback and speculating as to what might be a good direction, and you'll be seeing my gameplay footage. I think we'll probably record everyone else's footage too, if we can. We might not always be able to do that if a computer is lagging. But anyway, you'll be trying to find the fun. Okay, you're still trying to find the fun, but you'll also be trying to deepen the fun. Okay, expand the fun. In your first 2 weeks, you get a little morsel that's really, really exciting, right? A little glimmer of pure fun, right? Then you need to take that little morsel and turn it into a full buffet of engagement, okay? You get your core mechanic, and then you find ways to explore and have the player experience and look at that core mechanic from many different angles, okay? Professionalism, right? In the next 2 weeks, once you have some amount of content going on, you will then start polishing that content up. You'll add professionalism. So you'll add your elements of professionalism we talked about last week. You'll start thinking about color palettes. You'll start thinking about your art style. You'll start thinking about scene transitions, how to make your camera less jittery, right, and more smooth. You'll be finding bugs and fixing them. You'll try and find balancing issues, difficulty spikes, and you'll try and polish those to get a really good, consistently good player experience for people who jump into the game, okay? You'll be working heavily on things like juice, okay? You'll be doing that too in your first two kind of phases, your first 4 weeks, but juice really comes in at the end as well. Theming, okay? So theming, and you'll probably start thinking about this earlier as well, but theming is the idea that if you use a certain context for your game, like its characters, its plot, its setting, its art style, then you get certain things for free as a game designer. Okay? That's confusing. Think about this. Okay? I want you, chat, I want you to imagine a game where there's this element that spreads through the environment and progressively kind of destroys this environment. Okay? It degrades the environment. And the player has this ability to destroy the element, right, that's spreading, to mitigate the substance that is kind of spreading through the environment, okay? And they have various ways to do this, but all the ways basically amount to making the nasty stuff spread slower or go away, okay? And so you think to yourself, chat, okay, well, I need to explain to the player, how this substance spreads and what the substance is. I need to show the player that this substance degrades the environment and that it starts destroying it. And, I need to then teach the player that, okay, they have these tools that help them get rid of the element or stop it or slow it down. And then I need to teach the player that the objective is to save the environment by spreading this, right? Or by containing the spread, okay? So you have to do all these tutorials, and you have to give the player these objectives somehow. You have to rationalize all this in the game universe for them. And then one day you realize, wait a second, we're literally making a firefighting game. And you know the cool thing about firefighting? Society teaches people about this instead of us. Okay? So we take these game mechanics and we give the player avatar a firefighting hat. And we take the substance that spreads and we make it red, and we give it some particle effects so it looks like it's kind of a flame, right? So particles are going up and maybe there's a bit of smoke. And then we make the environment look like it's made of wood. And now we literally don't have to do any tutorials except maybe, what's the button to spray the water, right? As soon as your player sees that they have a firefighting hat and that there's a fire, they immediately know what to do, okay? And then maybe they have a fire hose or something sticking out the front of their avatar. They immediately know what their objective is. They immediately know how fire works, that's going to spread, okay? And so you don't have to teach them, and they know what their main mechanic is, shooting water. And so you immediately have taught all the players everything before they even started the game, really. Uh-oh. Is it frozen? Am I frozen, everyone? Am I still? It looks like I'm still going, so you're going to want to refresh, Dizzy. Anyway, chat, do you understand what theming is? We should probably have a dedicated lecture on that a bit later. But the idea is you want to contextualize your game mechanics in a way that the player you get a lot of stuff for free, that the player is going to already understand what they should do and what's going on, okay? Think about it this way. We call it theming. Has anyone in chat been to Universal Studios Orlando? The theme park, right? Universal Studios, where you can ride I think there's a Hulk ride, and you can ride the Simpsons ride, and you can ride the Mummy ride, right? The E.T. ride, okay? Now, what's interesting about Universal is that they are extremely efficient, and they do a lot of reuse, even with their rides. So what will happen is they'll build a ride, and they'll theme it around Back to the Future, okay? But then, like 5 years later, 10 years later, what they'll do is they'll keep the ride, but they'll change the theming. So, okay, this ride is no longer a Back to the Future ride because that IP is getting old. Now it is a Transformers ride. So what we'll do is we'll keep the ride and the animatronics the same, right, how the cart moves through it. However, we'll change out all of the screens. We'll change out the animations that show. They'll be Transformers now. We'll change out the audio. okay? And we'll change out all the signage and some of the side decoration. And so now they've changed the theme, but they've kept the same mechanics of the ride. They've kept the mechanics the same. They've changed the theme to something that will work better for them. And so you need to think about what theme is going to be best for your mechanics, okay? And that's a really big part of making things intuitive and memorable for players. Okay, you're also going to start thinking about marketing. So how can we make sure that this game is really easy to understand, and how do we get it out there? So you're going to start writing, a couple weeks in, you're going to start writing dev blogs every single week discussing what changed, what is new in the newest build, and you'll eventually start working on trailers. You'll create a trailer draft, and then you'll create a trailer final. And you can use, I think you can use, what is it, Adobe Premiere, Sony, Vegas. The University of Michigan has some really nice programs for making a film. So you'll be doing that. You'll be taking gameplay footage that you record, perhaps via OBS, and you'll be putting it into this film. My favorite trailers are ones that include a little bit of live action and dress up and cheesy acting from the team, but that is not required, certainly. And your final goal will be presentability, right? You are trying to make this game not seem like your typical student game or amateur game. You want this to be something that you could literally release on the market and or on Steam or something like that, okay? And on the topic of, releasing this game on Steam, on itch.io, I want to show you a very special game. In fact, I'm going to put this game into the Twitch chat in just a sec. We're going to play it, okay? This game is called Yoked. Has anyone played Yoked? Uh-oh. I just turned the music on. Okay, so hold on. Here we go. So here is the website. And you can see it right here. I just posted the link here. So Yoked is a Project 3 game. And if you look at this game, and I'll open up the page right here. If you look at this game, it is kind of a getting over it style game where you are climbing as an egg throughout a kitchen and you're trying to escape through the window before you get cracked by a spatula person coming after you, by falling out of the floor, by various traps, right? So you're using your arms to try and climb in a really interesting control scheme. This game was a Project 3 game from last semester made by Macro Hard Studios. And they are currently in talks with a publisher to release on Switch and Xbox and PlayStation 4. Okay? And there is some... I can't tell you the exact number, okay? But there is some real money. Like, tens of thousands of dollars and more on the line for this team. So they very well, your Project 3, if you've got a good team together, if you work hard, if you present it well, if you create a trailer, if you create a good itch.io page, you get people playing it, you get a basic social media presence going, this could be you, right? You could create your own studio right here, right now, that goes on and actually releases to some virality, right? So don't underestimate yourself. Don't do that, okay? You can create something special right here, right now, with the knowledge that you have and the effort that you put in. You don't have to do that, of course. But if you want to, you're in a more special position than you might realize right now to make some really cool stuff happen, and I know you will. So let's keep going. These 3 phases each last about 2 weeks each. Okay, I want to talk about the low-level schedule, because there's a plot twist in here that you'll never see coming, okay? So let's talk about the low-level schedule. Here are the dates we care about. We've got our final day of classes on December 8th, and we've got our first day of Project 3, which is the 10/19. That's going to be Monday, okay? So we finish on the 8th. First up, starting on Monday, you'll have 1 week, which is going to be your gold spike, your P3 gold spike. It works much the same as P2. We mainly want to see that you've invested a lot of time in your most important and difficult mechanic, okay? Then you have a P3 milestone deliverable, okay? This is essentially when you've got to have, a playable game going. P3 milestone 2, then we have your P3 alpha. The alpha at the end of this, so on November 16th, which is only about a month away, you should have essentially all of the content that will ever be in your game should be in your game. Okay, that's what the alpha phase means. Feature complete, content complete. Okay, it can be buggy, it can be unpolished and not very fun, but you should have most of your content then. We then have a week of beta, okay, where you go in, you look at your content, and you fix all the bugs you can, and you polish it up. When you're done with beta, you should have a very, very polished product, okay, a fairly polished product. We then have another week for you to add some of those polished elements, and then we have your final gold sprint, in which you get everything ready for the showcase, okay? You're doing your final testing, any last-minute small changes you make in that final week, okay? So that is your engineering work. You then have P3 project management, which is a long assignment. You're going to have a lot of sprints in here, and because you have more people on your team, it'll be even more important that you get this going, okay? That you really stick to your Jira site online, that you are editing stuff, that you are adding tasks, that you're tracking your time, and assigning out tasks, okay? You then have a P3 research assignment that will begin in your second week and last for 2 weeks. So your entire team will be playing quite a few games from whatever genre you decide to tackle, okay? I think you have to play 8 games and compare them to each other. So there are quite a few games you'll have to play, but you've got 4 people, so it's not a huge burden over P2 research and P1 research, okay? You then have a marketing draft you need to make late on in the assignment. This is when you produce your trailer, okay? You then have a marketing final that's going to be due by the showcase date, okay? Where you have finished your trailer and we all watch it as a class together and we clap for you, okay? So that's always a very, very fun day. You'll begin your dev blogs around that week 2 to week 3 period, and you will be releasing your game every single week to itch.io, and actually a couple more platforms too. The idea is we can no longer, we don't want to hide from the public anymore, right? So you've got the knowledge, you've got the skills, we are going to start putting ourselves out there and trying to get any amount of feedback we possibly can from as many different perspectives as we can too, okay? So we'll make the plunge, we'll take the plunge, and we'll start putting our game out there. Very scary thing to do, okay? But it's okay. You'll get through it. And not shown is a final P3 postmortem. You'll have quite a bit of time from the 8th to like essentially the end of exams to do this. So don't worry about this assignment. I think you'll enjoy it looking back on the entire class as a whole, okay? However, plot twist, okay? This semester's schedule was a little bit odd. It changed in that there were certain gaps and breaks where there didn't used to be, and we also started later. We have Thanksgiving break, which is coming up. It's going to be starting, I believe, on the 23rd and won't end until the 30th. So you're going to be missing an entire week, okay? We don't want to give you any homework, if possible, during this week. And so you will be taking a rest, and that's going to eliminate one of our sprints, okay? So there will be no P3 polished sprint. You'll have a total of 6 sprints, which is actually fewer than what teams in the past have had, okay? So we will need to be more efficient than ever if we want to hit the high bar of quality that previous semesters have hit, okay? I know you can do it, so go forth with confidence, and we'll solve the challenges that come, okay? So you can find and keep track of this low-level schedule and what is due right now and what should I be working on and what's coming up, when's the break. You can get all of this, once the showcase, you can get all of this on your schedule, okay? So please refer to it often. And then, of course, you can see the finish line. It is not all that far away, if you can believe it, okay? So I have a few more notes on Project 3, and then we're going to take a couple questions. And then we'll take a break not too long after that. Project 3. So Project 3 is going to look like this, not so much this. It is teams of 4 this semester. There are 400 plus points at stake, right? This is much more than your Project 1 and Project 2. This is a fantastic opportunity for a real gem of a portfolio piece, right? You're going to have a trailer, which hopefully explains in 45 seconds or less what your game is and shows off the coolest parts of it, so that you can talk with recruiters about what parts you worked on and how you made your decisions, okay? There are some limitations, though. No tower defense games. These tend to take no pure tower defense games, because these take way too long to get going, and it's impossible to grade, and your showcase scores don't have enough time to play them. No online games. We might actually talk to us if you want to make a client server game. and avoid parsec for multiplayer. We might allow you to do this, okay, but we usually don't. No minigame collections. Just like P2, it's hard enough to make one game that is fully guided and polished and balanced and engaging, let alone like 20. No overly violent games. Remember, this game will be going out to the public, and you are representing this university. So do not create overly violent games. I can understand if you want to make a horror game, it's going to be a little bit morbid. Okay, that's just the territory. But if you're worried that you might be crossing a line, please let us know. We will let you know in your feedback, okay? So don't worry too much about these restrictions. We'll let you know if you're starting to violate one of them so we can change course, okay? Anyway, does anyone have any questions? What I would like to do now is I would like to briefly play, before we get to our break, we got about 7 minutes, I would like all of us to briefly play some of these games together. Unfortunately, during an IRL semester, we usually play these games in person, okay? We can't really do that this time, and it makes me sad. So what we'll do instead is we're going to post 2 games, okay? This is one that can be played in the browser. So we're going to play first a game called Rubik's Cubot. And I would like everyone who can to click on this link I just posted to the chat. And we're going to play through this at the same time. We're going to play for about 5 minutes, okay? Then we're going to take our break. And we'll come back and we will we'll go over some, how to hack stuff, okay? Actually, we might not have enough time to get through our hacking entirely. We might have to continue it at the end. Next lecture. So let's take a look at Rubik's Cubot. Go ahead and play it. And we'll click on it here. Okay, run game. It's a cool WebGL game, so it's pretty easy for us to play. Hopefully it doesn't take too long loading. This is a really great example of a beautiful single-player game that is very focused, right? As you might guess from the title, it's a puzzle game about Rubik's Cubes and traversing them in unique ways. It has a very unified art style, as you'll see. It has a really great atmosphere with some lore, actually. Okay. Press any key to start. Oh, it's lagging a little bit. Oh, that's not good. Hopefully it's not lagging as much on your machine. But I've got a bunch of tabs open, and WebGL games don't run that well. Okay, so we can move around. We get a little piece of lore. We're forced to get this little piece of lore here. It says difficulty selection, battery increment, normal. It has a charge of 40. Okay, so I can press S to go down, hard, and extreme. Dev's lowest turn each time, okay? So we can grab a battery at the start of the game, and this determines our difficulty. I'll grab the easiest one, okay? So we pick up these flash drives that have information on who we are, right? So we are model Cubot.js, and our objective is to find Cubot 4, okay? Cubot.js, Cubot can rotate it using battery power, can walk on cubes, okay? And our location is an empty park. Our date is 2494, right? Hey, I see the Easter egg in there, 494, huh? Hey, that's clever. Anyway, we are far into the future, so we might wonder where all the humans are, right? So we can walk around here. Okay. We've got ourselves a little checkpoint. Now we'll get some information probably on Cubot 4, right? Unknown. Label best friend. Aw. And we get to see the robots being best friends together there. Currently under maintenance, it seems. Other friend. So there's another robot here called Other Friend. Need maintenance. Log 9 collected. Okay. So we got a little bit of lore. We've got our objectives here. And here's the first real puzzle. You can use Q and E to rotate a block, right? You can rotate it in many different ways, and you need to solve the Rubik's Cube to create a path through it. So we need to put this cube together. We can do that by doing that. Oop, and then we get taken away, right? To the next world. So this world is much bigger. It has more puzzles, more challenges. It has new mechanics being introduced, like locks, right? So can you get to the key and open it up? Can you stand on the button to open the path, right? And so all these new mechanics are introduced in an extremely friendly way. One thing that's really cool about this game is it has a dynamic difficulty. As in, what happens is, if you solve this cube, right, you can just walk through, essentially, and get to future puzzles this way, right? But if you solve the cube such that you can actually go this route, right? If you can find a way to get over to this path, it looks like deadly and dead and scary, right? It has a different tone. And because of this, if players go this route, they actually get a harder version of all the puzzles, right? This is a harder route to get to the end, but it has a secret ending, okay? Which is really, really cool. Anyway, you're solving these puzzles, and it doesn't really feel like a puzzle game. It feels like an adventure, right? You're traversing this world, you're trying to get through it, and these puzzles are still pretty easy. I think this is the first hard puzzle in the game. Press space when standing on a teleportation tile to teleport. Oh. No, that puzzle's not very hard either. Maybe this will be the first hard puzzle. Ah, yes. Right? So we get a little unlock there. And then I need to get over to that. I need to get over to that portal. I have no idea how I'm going to do this. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. Right? So anyway, a really, really cool example, and I wanna reiterate. One of the coolest things about this game is that instead of having a level select, where you have a bunch of isolated puzzles or levels that you just jump to, this game finds a way to connect the puzzles such that when you solve a puzzle, you actually end up traversing to the next one. Okay, all the puzzles are linked as if they exist in the actual physical game world. And so instead of feeling like, oh, I'm just going through a bunch of menus to get to progressively harder puzzles, you're like, wow, I'm going on a journey, right? By solving these puzzles, I'm traversing this world. I want to show you a really cool example of this in an old game, PS1 Q*bert. Has anyone played this? Has anyone ever heard of the Q*bert game for PS1? Okay, this is an extremely cool game in which they take the classic gameplay of Q*bert, which is usually just on a basic pyramid, right? This is what Q*bert usually looks like. Q*bert usually looks like this. Q*bert usually looks like this. Okay. So this is the typical gameplay of Q*bert. You are on a pyramid, and when you beat this stage, in Q*bert you have to actually step on every panel. By stepping on a panel, you change its color. When you change the color of each panel, you actually go to the next stage. But the next stage is just another pyramid with different colors and some unique enemies. But it's always just another pyramid, and you just warp there, right? So it doesn't feel like an immersive adventure, okay? This game does a really, really cool thing where as you solve a puzzle, you actually move on to new areas. So, you solve this puzzle by jumping and changing the colors of all of the tiles, and I think this player is about to win here. This player needs to go up and hit the green. Oh, this person has a cheat code on. This person needs to go up and hit the green. I beat this without a cheat code this summer, okay? So the puzzle is completed, and that causes a path to appear. So instead of being warped to the next area, the player actually traverses a world and explores and discovers how big this place really is, and then jumps off the cliff, right? It's just extremely, extremely cool. Let me see if I can find any other examples here. This is a super cool stage where the entire stage is about you climbing a tower, right? So every floor of the tower is actually another piece of another part of the puzzle. It's actually a new puzzle. And by solving the puzzles, you actually go up and up and up until you get to the very top of the tower where the hardest puzzle is, and you complete the stage there. So anyway, think about what you created for Project 2. And if it had a bunch of discrete, isolated levels, think about how you could have linked them together to create an experience that really feels like you're traveling and go on an adventure, right? So you go up to the next floor and you get a new puzzle, right? There you go. Great. That tends to make a game a little bit more memorable. So they do still have the old art style in like a side game in this PS1 game, but it's not an adventure, right? The levels aren't linked to like they are what you see here. Okay. So anyway, what I want to do is I'm going to leave Yoked around for you to play. Maybe we'll play that next time. We're going to take 5 minutes, and then we're going to talk very quickly about accessible but deep mechanics. I'm going to show you 2 games that do that really well. And then we are going to talk about hacking and modding, okay? So I'll see you in 5 minutes, okay? Let's take our break. I'll throw some music on. We started this morning with some rock and roll music, so we're gonna continue with some rock and roll music. Let me know if this music rings any bells, because I think it will for a number of you. Feel free to ask any questions you might have, chat. So what's everyone playing these days? Do you have enough time to play games? I just got done with some Phasmophobia the other night. Very, very fun game. Very tiny team. What's fun is that despite how busy they are right now, you know, their game blows up. They're a tiny team, making lots of money. They found the time to interview with one of my EECS 499 students, which EECS 499 is the research course that you can take after this if you want to. We'll probably talk about that soon. And they responded, so we're learning about how Phasmophobia was made and how its voice controls work in that game, because it's a game that actually uses the microphone. By the way, does anyone know when they're scheduling classes for the winter? Has that started yet? Is that coming up? That last song was from Sonic Adventure 2, and this one is as well. Does anyone know if when the course scheduling is coming up? I think it starts in November. Okay. Yeah, so we got... want to play Breath of the Wild, so I was playing the new Paper Mario. I'm one of those Paper Mario fans who wish they would go back to the Thousand Year Door RPG style. Thousand Year Door is an exceptional game. I only create games, not play them at the moment, waiting for Cyberpunk. I'm a little bit nervous about Cyberpunk. I feel like we might be in for a bit of a letdown. It's just hyped so much. I've been playing Astral Chain on the Switch. It's excellent, as all games by Platinum are. You should play the... later on in the course, we'll be talking about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle and Legend of Korra games that Platinum Games made. So, if you haven't played those, you might want to reserve that all games are excellent by them. Right? They do good work, but not all, their budgets are not always awesome. So, I've been playing through Super Mario Sunshine and Super Mario 64 and 3D All-Stars. Awesome, very cool. It's very unique that Nintendo decided they would emulate those games instead of just recompile them. Like, did they really lose the source code for Sunshine? Really? Like, do they really not have the source code for Super Mario 64? Like, I have to imagine. I mean, we have hobbyists, right, fans who have managed to recompile Super Mario 64 for Windows, right, and add support for widescreen and HD and all of that. And you're telling me that Nintendo's dedicated technology team in Europe cannot do the same, right, for Switch, for the NVIDIA Tegra processor, and give us those new features? Gotta be kidding. I'm not sure what happened with that release, but anyway. Okay, let's get back to it. We'll pause. Okay. So let's get back to it. So we're gonna skip Yoked for now. We'll play that another day, I think. I want to talk about accessible but deep mechanics. And the first game I want to talk about is a game I can actually play. Usually we play both of these because I have my Switch right here, right? And we could plug it into the projector, but I can't really do that for you right now, sadly. I can't get Mario footage on my monitor here for you to see. So let's do this. I want to play a little game you might have heard of called Getting Over It, okay? And, well, a little warning, I'm not the best at this game, okay? So, who's played this game? Who's heard of it? Okay, I want to know if you've heard of the game, and I want to know if you've actually played it, okay? Getting Over It. This is a well-known game. When I go to Shanghai to teach my game dev summer camp, like, everyone across the world knows this game, okay? So let's see why it is so notable. Okay. Oh boy, did I just, where am I continuing from? Here we are. Okay, this is the game. And this game is about you. You are a man in a pot, okay? And you can never leave this pot. There's water in the pot. And your only mechanic in the entire game is this hammer, okay? And what's amazing about this game is kind of like Breakout. It doesn't have any buttons. So you never use a single button in this game. The entire game is played via the mouse, okay? You move your mouse to move your hammer relative to your body. And, oop, rest in peace. And you use the hammer in order to actually move. So you scoop like this to move. And when you get to a tree, you need to do something like this, okay? You need to go up. Okay, hold on. We need to take this a little bit slower, okay? Okay. These controls are so awkward. And we can hook it around like this. Kind of carry ourselves around this tree. There are a lot of players who never even get past this tree. I kid you not. Was that a smooth move or what? You can also do really cool moves like this, where you push off. right? You push off hard to get a lot of distance and do a big jump, okay? Oh.
Oh, you just lost a lot of progress. That's a deep frustration, a real punch in the gut.
Yeah, that kind of thing happens a lot in this game. The feeling is it starts playing elevator music for us. So this is actually called Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, who is the game developer. Now, Bennett Foddy is supposed to be the voice you hear. That's not his actual voice. There's a voice actor he's using. But
All right, thanks for coming with me on this trip. I'll understand if you have to take a break at any point. Just find a safe place to stop and quit the game. And don't worry, I'll save your progress, always. Even your mistakes.
yeah, so you get into this like interesting philosophical discussion with Bennett Foddy, where he narrates and kind of annoys you as you go along. Okay, hold on. Okay, and oh boy. Okay, so why is this game worth us talking about and me playing and suffering through? So this game is notable in that it is a game with an extremely simple mechanic that is extremely deep, okay? It's very easy to start playing this game, but it's very, very hard to master its challenges. And you're going to see what I mean in just a little bit. There we go. We're up, and we're over, and okay, hold on.
This game is a homage to a free game that came out in 2002, titled Sexy Hiking. The author of that game was Jazuo, a mysterious Czech designer who was known at the time as the father of B games. And B games are rough assemblages of found objects. Designers slap them together very quickly and freely, and they're often too rough and unfriendly to gain much of a following. They're built more for the joy of building them than as polished products.
Okay, hold on. We need to do a boost here. Yes. Yeah. Oh, no. Okay. All right, good. Anyway, this is not Austin Plays. Okay, this is not a Let's Play channel, all right? But you can see here, right? This is a game with a very simple mechanic. It's easy to understand conceptually, and the controls are very simple, too. It's a simple interface. Okay, look at this controller right now. Look at this controller. This is terrifying. This is terrifying to people who don't play a lot of games, okay? This controller has like 20 buttons on it, 20 different things you can press, and depending on the game, they all do different things. This game only has one mouse. Everyone already knows how to move a mouse. But moving a mouse well in the context of this game is a very deep question, okay? And if you don't believe me that this game can be deep, here's what you do. If you want to know if your game is deep, look at how beginners play.
Sexy Hiking is the perfect embodiment of a B game. It's built almost entirely out of found and recycled parts.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most unusual and unfriendly games of its time. In it, your task is simply to drag yourself up a mountain with a hammer. And that act of climbing, in the digital world or in real life, has certain essential properties that give the game its flavor. No amount of forward progress is guaranteed. Some cliffs are too sheer or too slippery. And the player is constantly, unremittingly in danger of falling and losing everything.
Okay, so you got it, right? This is an extremely simple game that is very deep. One of the ways that you can quickly gauge whether your game is deep is look at how beginners play. My friend Josh Marshall, who's a local developer here, gave me this tip. What you do is you look at how beginners play the game, and you look at how experts play the game, and you see if there's a difference. If there's a big difference, that means that you probably have a fairly deep game. So let's take a look at what the world record for getting over it is. Okay, this is the current world record for getting over it. "69 seconds to complete the entire game."
Open your eyes.
Oh no! Come back. Internet. Oh, hold on a second. Okay, it's lagging a lot. Is it lagging a lot, everyone? Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it in the chat, okay? Let's take a moment and everyone click on this link, okay? Okay, everyone click on this link, and we'll give you a little bit of time to finish watching through, okay? Okay, we'll give you about I'm gonna give you about 60 seconds to watch this video, okay? But isn't this incredible? It is the difference between a beginner playing this game and an expert is just absolutely obscene, and it is, you know, it's also just a super simple game to get started with and get into, right? Due to how simple its interface and controls are, and overall just theme is. Right? There's not a whole lot here to be confused by. You're a person in a pot with a hammer, go. So anyway, definitely a game to admire. I want to move on to one more example here. This is a game that many more of you have probably heard of or played called Super Mario Odyssey. This is a game where, you know, you can run around. It's very simple. You run around and jump around as Mario, as you'd expect. But there's one new big mechanic in this game, and it's the ability to throw your hat. Okay, this game introduces one more button that allows you to throw your hat like that, okay? But you see, you can actually throw your hat and you can do a lot of things with it. So you can throw your hat and you can actually jump off of it. You can throw your hat, you can hold it out there as a makeshift platform and jump off of it. You can throw your hat at something and you can become that thing, like an electrode. You throw your hat at the electrode and you become an electrode. You can then go on the wire, right? And traverse big parts of the stage. Let's see if there's any other things people are going to show off for us. I don't know if it's going to show off any more stuff. But the thing to take away here, I usually like show off actual gameplay that I'm playing, but I can't do that. The big takeaway here is that Nintendo added one button and one new mechanic to this game, but that mechanic was so deep. You can do a billion things with it. You can throw it to hurt enemies. You can throw it to collect stuff, like the boomerang in Zelda. You can throw it at something to become that thing. You can throw it out there and then hold it out there by holding the button and then use it as a makeshift platform. You can throw it out there and then run into it to get a super high flip jump off of it. There are so many different things you can do with one button and one new mechanic. It's a very deep mechanic that's also very accessible. Nintendo, they are the masters of having simple mechanics that are also deep and satisfying to master, okay? Think about Mario's jump in the original Super Mario Bros. Jumping used to be super simple, but now you can do tiny jumps, you can do super long jumps, you can jump higher when you're running, right? You can control your jump's trajectory in the air a little bit, but not too much, right? So they are fantastic at creating new mechanics that are very deep and satisfying, okay? And I will now show you what an expert looks like using these mechanics, okay? Really, it's just mainly the hat that's used here. Here's a world record speedrun video where you're trying to beat a bunch of Koopas to a flagpole. Okay, that's quite a ways away at the top of a mountain. Let's see how it happens. Okay, and by the way, here's the video I want you to watch now. Watch this video. That is some incredible movement, and for the most part, it's just throwing your hat and doing various jumps off of that hat and with the hat, becoming certain objects and enemies at the right time so that you can use their traversal abilities to go fast, right? So anyway, it's super satisfying, and it's also very easy to get into. It's just, you know, great games, lasting and enduring games, tend to have, approachability to them, accessibility, so lots of people can experience them, but they have the deep mechanics that allow you to play forever, okay? Now, we don't have a ton of time, but I want to get as far into this new lecture as we can, okay? So how many of you, chat, I want to know how many of you are into, well, actually, I'll ask that later, okay? I want to talk about the secret life of video games, okay? How video games can often take on a life of their own within a community, gaining content and providing enjoyment that the developers did not even intend, okay? This is kind of, in a way, somewhat unique to video games, but this is something you'll see with all art forms too, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look. I have a question for all of you. I have a question for all of you. Anyone remember Skyrim? Chat, has anyone played Skyrim? Right? Anyone remember this game? This is a really, really cool game, and I just want to reminisce about it, right? I'm feeling nostalgic right now. It's the bonus lecture, so we can waste a little bit of time. I want to just, Bethesda, they're so incredible at making polished cinematic experiences. They might be the best in the industry at creating these cinematic, beautiful, polished masterpieces. So let's go ahead and watch the intro of Skyrim again, because I just love it, right? Right, just the way you remember it. This is the intro to Skyrim, when you're about to be executed.
Stormcloak. Some here in Helgen call you a hero, but a hero doesn't use a power like the voice to murder his king and usurp his throne. You started this war, plunged Skyrim into chaos, and now the Empire is going to put you down and restore the peace.
What was that?
It's nothing. Carry on.
Yes, General Tullius. Give them their last rites.
As we commend your souls to Aetherius, blessings of the eight divines upon
For
you.
the love of Talos, shut up and let's get this over.
Learn our...
As you wish.
Come on! I haven't got all morning. My ancestors are smiling at me, Imperials. Can you say the same?
Trigger warning. That was not much time. Sorry.
You Imperial bastards!
Justice!
death to the Stormcloaks!
As fearless in death as he was in life.
Next, the Nord and the Rags.
There it is again. Did you hear that?
I said, next, prisoner.
To the block, prisoner. Nice and easy.
What in oblivion is that?
Sentries. What do you see?
It's in the clouds!
Dragon!
Guys, get the townspeople this... What they take to kill this guy, kids! Get up! Come on, the dogs won't give us another chance.
What is that thing?
Just need to... Hammy, you need to get over here! Now! Attaboy, you're doing great. Turo! Everyone get back!
Right? Maybe, that's not exactly how I remember it going. Maybe something's a little bit off, but who knows? It's been a while since I played the game, okay? But anyway, that's one really cool game. But I have to say, there are other fantastic ones out there, right? Who has played the Resident Evil 2 remake? This is a spectacular game, one of my favorites in the current console generation. And One of the scariest things in this game is Mr. X, the stalker that follows you through the police station, making it hard to solve puzzles and survive. So, let's just review some footage of how that was like, because I really love how they implemented that mechanic, and I'd like to just reminisce about how well they did it, okay? Let's take a look.
Jesus Christ!
Okay, yeah. I don't, did anyone remember that from when they played it? It has been a while again, but, I didn't think Thomas was this prolific, really. A jumping series from Bethesda to, the guy gets around. It's very impressive. It's very, very impressive. Lots of gigs. So, let's keep going, because I don't know. That's just okay. This is a more family-friendly game. Finally, okay. Mario Kart. Has anyone played Mario Kart? Right, Mario Kart Wii. Anyone remember? I remember it. Let's let's watch it. I don't know. Thomas might just be, and I had no idea, one of the most prolific game characters of all time. I'm surprised he's not at the top of all of these famous, most important game characters of all time lists, So I had no idea. But, okay, let's drop the act. Let's level with you. So, Thomas the Tank Engine is one of the first characters. He is essentially the mascot of the hacking scene these days. He's one of the first characters you need to put in your game if you find out how to hack and mod it and add content. Okay. In fact, this Skyrim mod, one of Thomas's most famous, was actually made by a guy named Kevin in Madison, Wisconsin. He's currently, I believe, working at Raven Software, which is an Activision studio that is there. I gave this particular presentation at the M Plus Dev conference in Madison, and he was there. Actually, he came to this talk, and we got to talk about his mod. He's been sued like 3 or 4 times at this point by different companies. He was sued by Mattel for this Skyrim mod, and he hasn't lost any suits. He hasn't been damaged or anything, but Mattel was complaining that allowing Thomas to bomb and kill people was hurting the brand's reputation, right? It is. There's no surprise he got sued for that, but he's doing okay. He's a really cool guy. Anyway, So Thomas the Tank Engine, right? Oh, and you already know who I am. This is not a conference talk. In about the next 45 minutes, or actually, probably 20. We'll have to finish this at the end of on Monday. But our objectives are going to be to tell you the history of hacking and modifications. I want to show you live how to hack 2 games. We're going to be hacking a Game Boy Color game. We're going to be hacking a Street Fighter game, a much more modern one. And by the way, this is all for educational purposes. Do not go hacking a game to gain an advantage or cheat or get content that would otherwise be paid. Okay, this is purely for your technical education and for you to better understand the software that is running on your machine. Okay, So 1986, right? And some really, really great games came out. Zelda, Mario Bros, Metroid, Nintendo, and you already kind of know this, brings gaming back to North America and just knocks it out of the park with these fantastic games. So these are super, super revolutionary games. They're impactful. More people are playing games than ever before. All right? Compare this to E.T., right? And you can see and understand why. But these games are also extremely, extremely challenging. Extremely difficult. If you go back and you play some of these games, and you did for your NES research, you'll notice, like, wow, these are hard, right? Very challenging. And part of the reason why was this company right here that you may have heard of before, okay? But maybe you have not heard of. So Blockbuster was a huge rental chain that was very big in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, and have since died out. There's essentially only one of them left. We'll talk about why in a business lecture coming later. But Blockbuster came out, and they allowed players to not purchase a game for 40 or 50 bucks. That was a lot of money. But they allowed you to rent the game for like 3 or 4 days for like 10 bucks or 12 bucks, right? So it was much cheaper for you to do that. The problem, though, was that when someone rents a game, the game developer gets nothing. They don't get any money from that. No royalties at all. And so the game developers don't want you to rent the game. Well, you won't rent a game if it's super long and you spend a lot of time playing it, right? Because you would have to rent it like 4 or 5 times and it would no longer be worthwhile. Okay? So what the game developers did was that they couldn't really make their games long by adding a lot of content because it was very hard to make games in the 80s and 90s, right? And so what they did was they made their games very hard so that you couldn't beat your game in 3 or 4 rental periods. They would be extremely difficult, and so that's why they were made so difficult, right? In 1987, right, a year later, Konami put out a classic game, very well received, called Contra. Okay, and it looked like this. It was one of the first huge run-and-gun 2D shooters. Okay, and there are quite a few more arcade games that would follow, and there are even some around in modern times too. If you played Cuphead, Cuphead owes a lot to Contra. Anyway, this game comes out, and it is awesome. People love it, and a lot of people buy it, but it is brutally hard, okay? The players discover that there was actually a cheat code implemented into the game, okay? If you input a certain sequence of button presses on the title screen, you'll start the game with not 3 lives, but 30, okay? And for many people, this was the only way to get through the game, including the Q&A testers. This code, right, the Konami code it would be referred to, was put into the game so that the Q&A team could actually beat the game, because even they couldn't beat the game. It was so hard. And if you can't beat the game, you can't test the game. So let's put in a code to help us do that. But they forgot to take out the code. Okay, they forgot to take out the code, and that was a big problem. All right, so players got to play it. Okay, let's listen to the AVGN on this topic really briefly. Come on, we don't have that much time. Let's go, YouTube video. Let's go. We'll probably have to hold the hacking demonstrations until Monday, okay? But you'll have the context for it today.
To beat a game back then was kind of a big deal at the time. You know, you didn't always beat every game you owned, and some you were more skilled at than others. And I never considered myself that skilled in general. I always felt like the other kids were usually better at things than me. Like, you know, I was never good at sports or anything like that. I always had a really low self-esteem. But I realized something, that whenever kids would come over and they'd play Contra with me, you know, they'd come over like, hey, you want to play some Nintendo? Yeah, what game? How about Contra? Yeah, let's play Contra. And you start it up, I'd hit the start button, and then they'd be like, wait, hit the reset, and then I'm like, what? And they say, you forgot to put in the code. I'm like, oh, the code? Oh, there's a way to cheat with this game, huh? Contra wasn't the...
So, essentially, yeah, people quickly found out about the Konami code, and it became something of legend, in part because, remember, this was not the age of the internet, Okay? Like, it was hard to go online and look stuff up. A lot of people couldn't go online. They didn't even have internet. And so the way you got information about secrets and about, stuff hidden in a game was you went to school, and you, at the lunch table or at recess, you would hear people talking about rumors. Oh, I've heard there's a code that can give you 30 lives. What? And if you knew that code, you became the popular kid in school that day, right? Because you'd be helping people out. They would go home and they'd get to see more of the game they paid for, right? So anyway, it was a big deal, and it became famous. It became so famous that the movies like Wreck-It Ralph, right? This code is the Konami code. What is it? Up, down, left, right. What was it? Up, down, left, right, BA start. Yeah, that's the code, and it's used to get into the brain of the video game in Wreck-It Ralph. The King Candy uses it there. Okay, Google Stadia, in order to prove that Google was a gaming company now and that they were hip with the culture, they put the Konami code on the back of their controller for some reason. And then they removed it from the final version of their controller, because I remember buying it and then looking and discovering that they removed it. So, how do you do, fellow kids, right? It's a little bit strange of them that they did this, but whatever. Unfortunately, the person who programmed this code, Kazuhisa Hashimoto, died earlier this year. So we've lost that legend from the industry. So rest in peace. Okay, so in 1987, players discover that, wait a second, now that we know about this code, are there codes in other games? And the answer is yes, because Q&A testing hard games is a very common thing, and players and putting in cheat codes was very common as well. Forgetting to take them out was common too. However, what they discovered was that not all codes were actually made for cheating, okay? Just giving you infinite lives or something like that. Sometimes they actually gave you new content that the developers didn't finish or that weren't originally available in the game. One of these examples was the Zelda code, where you put in the name Zelda on the start page, and you don't start the normal quest. You start in the Master Quest, which is the quest that happens when you beat the first iteration of the game. So you start on a super hard version of the game that has some new stuff, new enemies and stuff, and new layouts, I believe, and new item placements. And what's interesting is that I bet a lot of people put their name as Zelda because it's the name on the box, right? They think the main character's name is Zelda, so they put Zelda in, and they start on the super hard version of an already hard game. It was not the best choice, I think. Another interesting example is the Justin Bailey cheat code, where it actually changed Samus's sprite to be a different costume, right? So that was pretty interesting as well, but new content. So in 1988, right, the word of cheat codes giving you abilities and giving you new content starts to hit mainstream, right? People are super excited. Wow, okay, I've got this new game. What secrets does it hold? And players rush to purchase game code magazines, like the Nintendo Power Code Vault Tips and Tricks, that give you these codes, that distribute codes that have been verified for each game. And so if you ever had any of these growing up, you're probably maybe a little bit too young for it, but I had these growing up in like the late 90s. They were a lot of fun, okay? They're not really around so much anymore. But the problem was that not all games had codes, okay? If you bought a cool new game, but you wanted some new stuff in that game, some new secret stuff, not every game would have codes for you to play around with and experiment with, okay? So that was a problem. Well, in 1990, there was a solution to this. Okay, there's so much demand for new weird content and new secrets and surprises that a company came out with this. The product was called the Game Genie. Okay, and it was, you can see the gray NES cartridge right here, right? This was the actual game. The Game Genie was this golden add-on that actually had, I call this the underwear, the tighty whitey strap, right? It's kind of this overall strap that would help it connect to and stick to the game cartridge, okay? So you'd put it on one end, and then you would insert this golden end into the actual system, okay? It was created by Codemasters in the UK. If that sounds familiar, it's because Codemasters is still around. They create racing games right now, and they're fairly big and I think doing fairly well. I imagine Nintendo wouldn't talk to them for some time after they did this, though. You can look up some interesting technical notes. I'll leave a link down here. Anyway, here's the insertion process. And this is like the best video I could find on this. I apologize.
Alright, now I'm going to be putting this thing in.
Right.
So you're going to just open this up and put it in like that. Like I said, the PVC board is a lot thicker than your standard.
Right? So this is essentially what you did. You stuck the Game Genie on one end, and then you put that end into the console, and then the cartridge itself is hanging half out. It kind of stinks a little bit, but it works, though. It works. So that's the process. But the question is, technically, how does it work? Because if we can understand how this works technically, we can understand how we can make our own cheat codes and new content for a game, okay? So here's a friendly exchange. And if any of you have taken EECS 388, the security course, this might sound a little bit familiar to you, okay? So here's a friendly exchange. You've got a phone, right? We all have a phone. We got a smartphone here, and it has a texting app, okay? Now, you've got a bunch of friends on this texting app, whether it's WeChat, whether it is Messenger, iMessage, whatever. And one day, you've got a friend named Alice who you've known for a while, and you share texts with her, and that's cool, okay? One day, you get a message on your phone, okay? It says, "Hey friends, it's Alice. I just got a new number," okay? And, it's from unknown. It's from an unknown number that you don't really recognize, but that's okay. It's Alice. That happens, right? People get a new phone, they get a new number, okay? You enter Alice for the new number. Okay, so now it's Alice. Great. New number. You can keep your conversation going with Alice. Over the next few months, your relationship grows, and you start to share some very personal stuff, okay? And so, you're sharing personal stuff with Alice, and it's all good, right? Your relationship is developing. That's great. Okay, so what's happening? Well, in reality, what you think is happening is this, okay? Maybe this is you, and maybe that's Alice, okay? And you are sharing messages over what you think is a kind of a private encrypted line, okay? And that's great. However, unfortunately, what's going on actually is you are sharing your messages with someone. Alice is sharing her messages with someone. But in reality, you are actually sharing your messages with Corbin Reeves, my colleague at EMU, and that's really bad news because now he knows what your favorite anime is, okay? So you're in big trouble. What's happening here is that you share your message with Corbin. Corbin takes your message and sends it to Alice, okay? Now Alice gets your message from Corbin, sends her message back to Corbin, and then he forwards it to you, okay? You two are none the wiser, okay? Which is a big problem because you think you have a private line, but you don't. There's a man in the middle, okay? Corbin is in the middle. It's our man in the middle attack, and this is a famous and very difficult to solve attack. This is an attack that is making the headlines constantly, right? If you ever see this, warning potential security risk ahead, in your web browser, this is your browser telling you that I don't know if you're being man in the middle right now. You might be, okay? If you look on tech websites, right, you will see pretty regularly that a man-in-the-middle attack is causing people to lose their privacy and lose their data, right? So what we have here is a genie in the middle attack, okay? Because if you look at this, right, all NES communication, we've got the NES hardware and processor over here, we've got the actual game pack over here, and in the middle, we have our game genie, which is responsible for routing the messages between the two, okay? It's in the middle, genie in the middle. The genie has visibility and write control over all communications between these two things, the actual game cartridge and the hardware itself, okay? So here's how it goes. You've got your NES console, then the Game Genie, and then you've got the cartridge, okay? This is the connection path. So what happens is the NES says, hey, Game Pack, where does Mario start at in this level? What coordinate? The Game Genie doesn't really care. So it just sends this request through the cartridge. The cartridge says, hey, it's x equals 35, y equals 15. And then the Game Genie takes this message back. The cartridge sends the message back, the Game Genie facilitates it, gets it back, okay? The hardware doesn't know that there was a Game Genie in the middle here. It has no idea, all right? It looks just like a cartridge. Okay, hey Game Pack, what sprite do I use for the clouds? Okay, the cartridge says use the bush sprite and recolor it. Okay. Hey Game Pack, how many lives does the player start with? The Game Genie decides that it cares about this particular message. It says definitely 1000 and sends it back. The hardware has no idea that this was intercepted and changed, and the Game Pack was none the wiser either, right? So we have man in the middle, our NES console and game, in order to change its data. And this is effective. We can change content this way. We can change numbers this way. And lives in a game are literally just a number, okay? The question never actually reaches the actual game, and the NES hardware is none the wiser, okay? So the man-in-the-middle attack allows for complete control of this game, which is super cool. So the Game Genie was very popular. It was very effective. In fact, Codemasters programmed in a bunch of new cheat codes for games that didn't even have them and distributed those with the pack itself. So it was very effective and very popular. Competition started appearing, and maybe some of these will be familiar to you. So the Game Boy Color had the Game Shark, right? Is that the Game Boy Color? I can't remember. The Sega Genesis had a Game Shark version too, okay? And the Nintendo 64 did as well. And what's similar about all of these is that they will always be a man-in-the-middle attack. For instance, you would put a Game Shark cartridge into your Nintendo 64, and then you'd put the actual game on top of it so that you had the man-in-the-middle formula, right? You had the Game Boy Advanced Game Shark, right? That was fairly... I think I had one of those. You had Action Replay for the DS and DSi, right? And so that's console, right? On PCs, things were getting even more interesting because on PCs, it's a different situation because you own and you control the PC and its hardware, okay? Here's how modding goes in the modern day. You've got this PC. It's like your game console, right? Well, the thing is, when you load a game into your PC, you control the RAM, right? You download the game. It goes from the cloud to your local hard drive and then into RAM. Okay, your memory, your stick of RAM that you own, okay? So here's how it goes. You got Steam and you got Resident Evil 2 and you're downloading it and then it goes into the game hardware and it's RAM now, right? So the important distinction here is that you own your RAM. You have control over it, literal control over what values are, what the ones and zeros are, in a way that you don't have control on a console, okay? You control your RAM. So essentially, it's like you have the Game Genie access that you had on the NES, okay? So you've got your computer, you've got your game running. Now remember, in RAM, it's just a bunch of ones and zeros, and somewhere in these ones and zeros is the specific set of ones and zeros that controls things like your health, your score, your lives, right? The position of your opponents. Your aim in the game, right? It's all represented by zeros and ones. Those, how many is that? That one byte right there, that byte could be your health. It could be, but wait a second. Any of these could be your health, okay? You don't know, if you look at your RAM while you're playing a game, you don't know where your health is. You don't know where the important numbers are. And so the question is, how on earth do we begin to understand and organize these numbers, these bits, our RAM, okay? Because if only we knew what ones and zeros represented what in the game, we could change them. Hey, it's our machine, right? It's our memory. We have the control, if only we can understand it. So how do we begin to manipulate this? We're going to use some really great tools, okay? Next lecture, we'll be showing you a really cool emulator called BGB that can show you your RAM of the Game Boy Color. And the Game Boy original did not have a lot of RAM, so it's very easy to create cheats for the Game Boy. And we'll be showing you an extremely powerful and available free, and I believe open source tool called Cheat Engine, okay? Which you can just Google really quickly online, you'll find it. It's extremely powerful. The two games that we will be creating cheats for next time are going to be Looney Tunes for the Game Boy Color, right? And Street Fighter 4. For the Windows PC, okay? So I hope you look forward to these. I own both of these games, and we won't be using these to cheat online or anything like that, or get downloadable content or anything. So please look forward to the technical demonstrations for your education Monday. Okay? Otherwise, we will be having a break for the next 5 days. Okay? Do your P2 postmortem and get your Project 3 team finalized. Otherwise, do whatever it takes to take a break. Okay? Relax, listen to some classical music while you work on homework and catching up for your other courses, and make sure to take a walk if you can, hopefully someplace where, there isn't a lot of, someplace where there isn't a ton of other people so you can keep them and keep yourself healthy. But otherwise, have a fantastic, safe, and healthy week, okay? You deserve a little bit of a break, so make sure you get that in, all right? Otherwise, I'm going to stick around for about 10 minutes, and we'll answer some questions. I'll throw some tunes on, okay? Let's see here. What's a good one? This is a little bit of a strange song, but maybe some of you've definitely heard music from this series before. It's very energetic. Okay, ask any questions that you have, chat. Okay, I'm just about to post the lecture for today. There you go. Any questions, chat? I think they did. Yeah, Chow, I think they did. Because I know that while they weren't super widespread, there were tools that allowed you to dump the memory of the NES console. And I don't know if maybe like a developer kit could do that. Here's what I'm guessing happened. I'm guessing that a developer kit was leaked and obtained by people who wanted to dump memory. And once that had been leaked and it was possible to dump memory, it was very easy to go through a bunch of games and figure out, where each value was stored in memory. And then you could create the mappings that you program into the Game Genie, right? And you could create your own cheat codes that way pretty quickly. The other way that it could possibly be done is there is a way to read memory even if you don't have software access to your memory contents. I'm pretty sure you can just take your electrical devices and you can poke it in different locations on the processor, and you can sort of slowly figure out what the memory values at each address is that way. If you go into hacking of game consoles, where the game consoles will not give you easy access to the memory contents, that is kind of how they still do it. They will show you photos of a bunch of electrical equipment poking and prodding and hooked up to an opened up game console, like a PlayStation 3 or a Nintendo Switch, and they'll be trying to figure out where certain pieces of data are in memory and what those pieces of data are. Yeah, console security is a crazy fun topic. It's I wish I had more time to play around with it, but my electrical engineering background is not strong enough for that kind of stuff. So it'd take a long time to get any progress done. So if I recall, I used the technique that I advocate so much, right? So because of the fact that submissions are free, you can, in this course, submit as many times as you want. So in a way, I believe you can also download your submissions. So in a way, you can use it as a kind of a lightweight version control, where, hey, you got to build, it's working pretty well, so just make a submission, right? Doesn't really matter, just make a submission. So we would submit, a couple days. As the deadline approached, we would start making submissions, and then when we had more time, we would say this is the final build, and then we would have more time. So we would polish things up, fix some bugs, maybe add a very small feature or two for extra bit of content, and then we would play test it, and we'd say, okay, well, we'll make this the final submission, and then we'd have a little bit more time, so we'd do the same thing. The risky thing there was that if you submit too often, you run the risk of submitting a broken build that has bugs that you didn't have enough playtesting time to discover. So I think back in the day, like they wouldn't grade, they would only grade your most recent submission. So that was kind of risky what we did. But these days you can just tell us which submission you want us to grade and we'll grade it. So I attended a lecture on how modern consoles maintain security, and there are so many tricks to prevent people who have ultimate access to the hardware from getting in. Even when they can drill holes and reset pins and such, so much custom hardware work is done. Yeah, and that's really no surprise. The early game console manufacturers did not really have security in mind. And with every console iteration, they would grow and grow in the number of techniques they deployed, right? They started working on really interesting copy protection stuff, right? So, okay, the PlayStation disc format has come out. How can we defend this disc format? Because discs are standard. They're a very standard medium of data. And so there are tools to write to discs and write any data you want. So how can we make sure that you can't just manufacture a pirated copy of a disc and use that as the game, right? There are really interesting Gamma Sutra Spyro 3 copy protection. One of the really cool techniques that Sony developers eventually devised was Spyro 3 had a feature where they knew that you were going to crack the game eventually, right? Because the PlayStation just didn't have very good hardware protection against piracy. So what they did was, if they detected that the checksum of the game's code had been altered, as in if they detected that you had changed their code somehow, what the code would do is it wouldn't just prevent the game from running, it wouldn't just crash the game or something like that, or shell you an anti-piracy message and stop. What it would do is it would let you keep playing the game, but it would actually program in subtle bugs into the game so that you would make a change, think that you had broken the copy protection, and then you'd keep playing, but the game would get less and less fun, right? Like the bugs would be introduced and things would start to fall apart and become unstable. And so it took hackers a long time to discover when they had truly broken and beaten the copy protection, because it just wasn't obvious anymore when they had done so. And so this took them like a month to beat. And by then, most of the game's sales had been done. Most of the game's sales come in the first 2 or 3 weeks. And so the copy protection worked perfectly. After a month, you don't really care all that much as a developer if your copy protection was broken. So these days, if you want to provide a really good copy and cheat detection, you move as much of your code as you can to a server that you control. So that's why games as a service and always online games are so popular these days. It's one of the reasons, is that you can't really hack something if it's not on your PC. It's very hard to do so. You can't edit the code if the logic is not on your machine. So anyway. Yeah, I haven't heard about too much as far as the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. So it'll be interesting to see what techniques they employed to get past the hackers. Okay, that's 10 minutes. I'm out of here. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed this little bonus lecture. We'll finish up with a quick bit of demonstration at the beginning of Monday's lecture. Otherwise, have a happy, healthy, and safe week, okay? We will see you next time. See you Monday.